In Belgium, even petty revenge is served with beer. My dad passed away last year, but this story still makes me smile every time I think about it. So my dad worked for the government his whole life, climbed his way up the ladder until he was basically running an entire district. Sounds impressive, right? Wrong. He hated it. Instead of doing what he was actually good at, which was tax law stuff, he had to manage people and make these horrible decisions that kept him awake at night. Like he'd have to tell a single mom that her new job assignment was 50 kilometers away from her hometown, or fire someone right before Christmas because of budget cuts. This stuff was eating him alive. So you know what he did? He voluntarily stepped down, took a lower position so he could go back to doing what he loved: tax treaties and international law. Boring to most people, but my dad was like a genius at it. Here's where it gets interesting. When my dad stepped down, guess who got promoted to fill his old position? This guy named Mark, who used to work under my dad. Mark was the worst, the kind of person who gets a tiny bit of power and immediately turns into a complete nightmare. He would micromanage everything, make people stay late for no reason, and just generally make everyone's life miserable. But my dad was only like 3 years from retirement, so he figured he'd just keep his head down and survive until he could get out. The real revenge came on his last day of work. In Belgium, we take beer very seriously. Like, we have thousands of different beers, each with their own special glass and everything. And the names are incredible. Some are positive, some are negative, but they're all super creative. For his farewell party, my dad prepared personalized gifts for every single colleague he'd worked with over the years. Each person got a bottle of beer whose name matched something positive about them. He gave someone named Martha a beer, literally called Martha. He gave the office musician a beer called Troubadour. Someone who was always optimistic got a beer called Good Hope. Each bottle came with its own special glass, engraved with a personal message. Everyone was opening their gifts and getting all emotional about how thoughtful it was. People were crying. It was really sweet. Then my dad brought out the final gift: a huge, beautiful beer basket for Mark, his boss. The basket was absolutely gorgeous, wrapped with ribbons and everything. It looked like the most expensive gift of the entire party. Mark was beaming. He's standing there in front of everyone, holding this massive basket, talking about what a wonderful colleague my dad had been and how much they'd miss him. Then he started reading the beer names out loud. The first one was called Duvel, which means devil in Dutch. Mark kind of laughed nervously and kept going. The next one was called Judas. Then he pulled out one called Self-Righteous Little Monk, another one called Troublemaker, then one called Fool. You could literally watch Mark's face change as he realized what was happening. The entire basket was filled with beers that had insulting names. Every single bottle was basically my dad calling him a different version of a terrible person, wrapped up in this beautiful gift that looked super thoughtful and expensive. The room went completely silent. People were trying not to laugh. Mark's face turned bright red and he just stood there holding this basket full of insults. He mumbled something about having to leave early, grabbed his coat, and walked out without giving the speech he'd prepared. My dad just stood there with this tiny smile on his face, sipping his beer like nothing had happened. That's probably the most Belgian thing I've ever heard. Passive-aggressive revenge, disguised as a thoughtful beer gift. I miss that man every single day.